get started. We're going to start off with a opening statements, first from Athletic Director Keith Carter, followed by new head men's basketball coach Chris Beard, and then following that we'll take some questions. I'll be moderating, take y'all out. If you could do me a favor, raise your hand, we'll call on you, and if you could give us your name, your affiliation, and who the question is for, that'd be great. So, Mr. Carter, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mike. Good afternoon, everyone. As I mentioned from the stage, we're super excited to have Chris Beard as our 23rd basketball coach. Couldn't be more excited about it, in the future and the vision that he's going to bring to Oxford and Ole Miss. Obviously, when we started this process, we were looking for the very best coach to lead our student athletes, and Coach Beard was right at the top of that list. As I shared on the podium, his success on the court speaks for itself, but we knew, obviously there were more questions than that. Like we would with any hire of this magnitude, we were extremely thorough in our review of Coach Beard. That evaluation included delving into reports that led to his departure from Texas. Those allegations we take very, very seriously, obviously, and it's so important that we gain a clear understanding of that particular situation. What we learned is that the initial reports were not accurate, not an accurate reflection of the events that happened. We had multi-level conversations with a number of people surrounding that night, and Coach Beard was obviously extremely transparent with our discussions with him. There was due diligence from our outside search firm and athletic staff before we made the decision to move forward in the process. After looking at all the information and learning more about the type of person that Coach Beard is, we are very confident and excited for him to join the Ole Miss family. There's so many great things that kind of point to the person that he is and his character. I mentioned his 3 daughters and the relationship that they have, the active involvement in the community everywhere he has been, and the impact that he's had on student athletes everywhere that he's been. So we certainly look forward to Coach Beard being ingrained not only with our basketball program, but with our Ole Miss and Oxford community as we move forward.
Thanks, Keith. Just before we get into the press conference question and answer, which I'm looking forward to, I'll say this. I wish we were all here tonight just to talk about basketball and graduation rates and attendance and championships, but I understand that there'll be other things to talk about tonight, and I'm okay with that. One of the personal things that's been very challenging is I haven't had a chance to really say much publicly the last 90 days or so. So I understand some of the questions that are coming, and I'm very comfortable and confident in the truth. Obviously, I've lived on this earth for 50 years and coached for, I think, almost 25, 26, 27 now. I should know that. People ask me all the time. I need to look at my bio. What I've been through recently and what our family has been through recently is just so out there in terms of nothing that even compares to anything like that. I've gone through that before, so it's been very challenging. It's been challenging for a lot of people, and everybody that was affected. I've just been extremely remorseful and apologetic for anything that's affected anybody in a tough way, and a lot of people have been affected. So a tough part of this has just been not able to speak publicly and not even speak to the people that I wanted to speak to. But this is a new beginning, and I look forward to this. Like Keith said, what's been reported originally on December 12th is proven to be not accurate. With Randy's statement on December 23rd, which I appreciated her setting a lot of the things to the truth. I also, eventually the case not being pursued and dismissed and all was obviously a positive too, which I always knew would happen because I know what happened and what didn't happen that night. But certainly when it happened, it was good in almost record time, less than 2 months, the case being dismissed. I think that's a sign for where the facts and truth were as well. So, but yeah, for all the people that I haven't had a chance to talk to publicly, just remorseful and sorry that it affected a lot of people, but also really confident in who I am, the life I've lived for a long time. I'm an open book in a lot of ways, and I can't get back to being who I am. And that's a coach, a leader, a father, a mentor, and I'm just blessed to be at a place like Ole Miss to get back to work, and I can't wait to do that. So before the questions, I appreciate Keith allowing me just to say some things that I thought was really important to start tonight with. Thank you.
front here to the left.
Michael Katz with the Daily Journal. Keith, this one's for you. You mentioned the circumstances that led to his departure from Texas. Do you worry about the perception that this move will create for the university?
Well, obviously when we went into this process and started, researching Coach Beard, we knew that there would be questions about that, and that's why we were confident in our research, in our due diligence. I think that people are going to believe what they're going to believe, and some of the things we have to do now is just move forward. And I think that for us, we would not be sitting here today if we didn't feel very confident in what we know happened in that situation. So Coach Beard has been very transparent, just like he just was. And so for us, yeah, I think people may tend to look at our university in a certain way, but for us, at the end of the day, we're going to make decisions that we feel are best and appropriate, and this one we feel very confident in what we did.
Front here to the left.
Jake Thompson on Three Ole Miss Spirit. Chris, this is for you. You mentioned out there getting out into the community on campus next week. You may have some uncomfortable conversations with certain groups just with everything that's surrounded the past 2 months. How do you kind of prepare yourself to maybe have to answer some of those questions to parts of the fan base?
Yeah, it's a good question. Appreciate you asking it. I'm a relationship guy, and I think the core foundation of all relationships is the truth and transparency. There's easy things to talk about, and there's challenging things to talk about in all relationships. So I know we're going to build this program through relationships. For example, talking to the current players here in the last 36 hours or so, whenever you have a real conversation, the truth is and transparency is really important. So I can't wait to get not only on campus but out in the community and really in the state and start meeting people. And again, I wish the conversations were all about winning championships and graduating players and selling out arenas, but I understand that there'll be other questions, and I'm okay with that.
We'll go in the back there.
For AD Carter, Joe Cook, 16 WAPT. I guess walk me through the timeline of this, because obviously the reports came out about the situation with Coach Beard and the charges were dismissed. When that happened, was that when you said, okay, maybe we can pursue this? Like, give me the timeline as when you heard the news and when you actually started pursuing it seriously.
Well, I think the first contact we had with Coach Beard was on February 28th. And I've been doing a little due diligence before that, working with his representation, working with some others, just trying to figure out where to start and how to start delving into the situation. I think as we continued to do that, all roads kind of kept leading back to the same story. And so we spent some time with Chris on the 28th. The Chancellor and I were able to go see him a few days later and spend some time with him, and was just very impressed with his transparency, his humility, the things that he told us. And so we continued to do all that. But it really started with the first conversation with him on February 28th, and we worked forward from there.
We'll go front left here.
Chris, Neil McCready with Rivals.com. Were there any moments in the last 90 days or so that you kind of lost optimism that you'd get an opportunity like this? How hard was it to stay optimistic that an opportunity like this would come your way?
Never a moment I lost optimism. I've been going a mile a minute for my whole life, and it's college basketball, so certainly this time off that I never wanted or predicted the way the time would come off, but God works in mysterious ways, But I think the time off, I learned a lot, about myself. I spent time with mentors, my family, my parents, successful people talking about basketball and non-basketball, certainly my faith. But I think during that time off, did I ever lose optimism? No. I know who I am. I know who the people I surround myself with. Now, were there some challenging times? Absolutely. Has this been some of the most adversity I've ever been through in my life? Absolutely. But lose optimism? No. I know who I am. I know how I was raised. And so it's a good question. I haven't thought about it like that. But, no, I don't think I ever stopped believing because I know who I am.
We'll go in the back middle next.
Chris, John Sokoloff, WCBI. what does it kind of mean to you to be able to get a kind of a second chance?
Well, I think this next opportunity means everything to me. I think, people say all the time, second chance. I think it's human beings. We get 8 or 9 chances every day. I've got 3 daughters. I mean, I ask for 6 chances every hour, so, but I understand the question and respect it. Look, this is one of the great colleges in the country, academic institution, college town, the SEC, the tradition, the coaches that come before here, the men I get to work with, and administration, all the way to the chancellor. So this is a big-time job. So I'm blessed to be here. When this job opened and I was asked about it, I mean, this was the one. I love college towns. I love this state. I can't wait to get to work. So, I'm excited to be here, and I'm glad that this is my next opportunity, and I'm going to take advantage of it.
The second row on the left down here.
Chuck Ronzaville, the Ole Miss Spirit. Welcome, Coach Beard. I had a former coach, I called him about you, and I said, give me his style, and he said he called it structured freedom. What's your analysis of your style of basketball we're going to see?
Yeah, you'll have to tell me later on who said that, because I like that. Structured freedom is a efficient way to say it. I agree with that. I think the foundation of any winning team is discipline, period. You're not going to win without discipline. The best players, the guys that want to play in the NBA, the greatest players, they want discipline. I've never coached a great player that didn't want discipline. They want to be coached, and discipline's the biggest form of love, I think. Some people misunderstand discipline just in terms of they do this, do that. Real discipline's when somebody cares about you and they set the stage for you to be successful. So, absolutely, we have structure. We have some non-negotiables. We're going to execute our core values. We're going to go to class. We're going to play the game the right way. We're going to be unselfish. We're going to respect others. We're going to support others. So there's some non-negotiables. I think in the other thing, though, absolutely, you got to give great talent the freedom to play their game and the opportunity to play their game. So I would agree with that assessment. I think we have a lot of discipline in our program, but I also think that we understand how to win. And to win, you got to get really talented players, NBA players in the SEC, and we got to put them in positions to play. And obviously, the ability to play your game, to have freedom in your game, not be looking over your shoulder every time with our best players, and that's absolutely. So whoever said that, I love that word choice. In 2 words, it just took me 3 minutes to say it,
We'll go front right here first.
Chris, David Eckert, Clarion Ledger. I guess, what would your message be to the members of the public, Ole Miss fans, whoever, I guess, who might still be concerned about what they've read in the last 2 or 3 months?
Yeah, I think my message would be, first, a lot of the things that we said tonight in the arena. We're having fun. That I'm so excited and humbled and appreciative to be here. I understand the trust that was put in me to lead this great historic program, and I'm not going to let anybody down. I would tell people, to get to know me, to give me a chance, and I'm going to work hard at relationships. Again, I've been alive for 50 years, and I've coached for 27 or 28, so I think I'm an open book in a lot of ways. The events that have been described, and a lot of the descriptions weren't accurate, and that's been proven. That's not me. It's not who I am. It's not who I've been. It's not who I will be. I would ask people to do what I always ask people to do, even without these circumstances, is just to let's form a real relationship, a relationship built on trust. And I'm a guy, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And so the things we said tonight, we're going to do. We're going to build a program here that can be proud of, and we're going to compete for championships. But I look forward to having relationships with a lot of people.
Front right here.
Hey Chris, Jared Redding, Inside the Rebels on 24/7 Sports. You mentioned it up there, just talking about Bob Knight and him kind of being part of this journey leading up to today. Just kind of, I know you kind of mentioned earlier just about the core values and all that. Just what are some of the the bigger takeaways aside from the things you just mentioned for just working underneath him and just leading up to today?
Yeah, I've been blessed not only in my basketball career but my life, just to be with some elite people. And it's hard to mention anybody specifically because you leave others out. But certainly tonight, I wouldn't be here without Coach Knight, in my opinion, one of the greatest coaches and the best teacher in the history of college basketball, in my opinion. I know there's been a lot of others. So then certainly Coach Gundy, my first athletic director that I mentioned in public out there tonight. So, but your question about Coach, I appreciate you answering it. It's a question I get asked a lot, and we could talk all night. But with Coach Knight, one thing that I've always believed in is just the idea and the commitment to preparation. There's not one college basketball player that doesn't want to win. There's not one coach that doesn't want to win. There's not one fan that walks into the arena and doesn't want to win that night. But I think what separates good from great and winners from champions is, do you want to prepare to win? And so preparation is really important, and that's one of many things I learned from Coach Knight.
I think middle back will go next.
Chris Knowles, WTBA. This is Coach Beard. One of the top recruits in the state, Joshua Hubbard, flipped his commitment to Mississippi State after the firing of Coach Davis. What will you do to reassure the recruits going forward?
Yeah, I can't talk specifically about the players and all that, depending on the recruiting period and all that. But your question is basically about recruiting. And I can say again, my respect for Coach Davis is unmatched. Kermit's a friend. He's a great man. These coaching changes, you see a lot about somebody's character, and it doesn't surprise me at all because I know about Coach. He loves the state, he loves his school, and he loved this team. He built a real program. So in terms of recruiting, it starts with us trying to develop a relationship with coaches, players, and see if we can't get them to become our players. And that's a process. Some players can make that decision sooner than later, but some players need time, and we're good with that because what you're talking about is a relationship. And no two relationships work at the same speed. But in recruiting, we're busy working at relationships and explaining to guys what we're about. Also, we're doing a lot of listening right now. We try to listen more than we talk with these players. But our number one priority is the players that are on this team. Also, a number one priority is the players that were in this recruiting class. I think there was 4 in the early class, and we're made contact with everyone, and we're in the process of developing relationships as well as we're doing ongoing recruiting, because we're obviously going to have some more players to have the talented roster that we need to do what we came here to do here in a few months.
Anyone who hasn't gotten the question yet, I think back left there.
Coach Patrick Johnstone, WOBT. You said you came here to bring a national championship here. Obviously with this conference, it's easier said than done. Do you have a game plan or benchmarks that you're hoping to hit to kind of get this team on the track to there?
Yeah, I definitely agree that it's easy to talk about it, really difficult to do it. But again, I think you're not going to accomplish anything elite in life unless you have a vision, and you have to have the courage to be well-defined in what you want to do. So we don't apologize for our expectations, and we don't apologize for our goals. It's certainly not arrogance. We don't think we're better than anybody else. But at the same time, we don't think anybody is better than us. Like, we're going to work as hard as anyone, and we have a great product. There's not a better university. There's not a better college town. There's not going to be a better coaching staff. There's not a better style of play. There's not a better fan base. So the top players in the country, the recruits, guys that want to go to college and play in the NBA one day, why not Ole Miss? We have everything. Now we got to get to work, and we got to get relationships, and we got to build this thing. And it takes time. But I've never been one to kind of box myself into what that time frame has to be. I know this. We're going to have some players on this year's team that this will be their last year of eligibility. And my promise to those guys is all decisions will be based on winning. Yes, we're going to build the program, and we're going to build it for the future, but we're going to try to win next year. And I think that's what those players need. I don't think it's fair for a guy that has 1 year left to go into a situation where it's a build or all this word. I know how to build, but I build 5 minutes at a time. I'm going to try to build the next hour and later tonight and the next morning. So that's really important to say, that we understand the time frame, but we're going to build this the right way. The first thing is, the SEC. If we can get competitive in the SEC, you're in the NCAA tournament. You get in the NCAA tournament, it's 6 games and 3 weekends. If you can get more than competitive in the SEC and compete for championships, now you're looking at a really good seed. And if you get a good seed, you're walking into the front door of the six-game party, and that's important too. And then consistently, you just got to make sure that you're there, each year. To me, that's how you win a national championship. You got to knock on that door. It can't be a one-hit wonder, and that's why our programs are always built on culture and foundation and who we are, not just one team or one player. So I think the SEC gives you a real chance to get into that neighborhood where we're trying to get. And we got a lot of work to get in there. They don't just let you in there by swinging by, and turning left on Main Street. So we'll have to work really hard to get in there, but that's what we're here for. We have a proven track record. We're confident in how we go about it. But yeah, we want to turn into one of those programs where you think of college basketball, it's not a matter of, hey, did Ole Miss make the tournament this year? It's, what seed did they get? With a couple weeks left in the SEC race, it's not a matter of checking those rankings. It's a matter, hey, we know Ole Miss is right there. What do they got to do down the stretch here to win the championship? So that's our goals. We don't apologize for it. I know it's lofty. I understand that. But to win on Monday night, you got to have some courage.
And I believe we'll go back row on the floor here left.
Hey, Chris, wanted to ask you specifically about the night of the arrest. Police documented that your fiance said that night that you stood behind her and placed your arm on her throat. Did that happen? Did you place your arm or your hands on her throat that night?
Yeah, so very respectively, Randy and I, have agreed not to talk about the details of not only that night, but kind of the nights that we went through the process. But what I can tell you is much of what was reported was not accurate, and that's been proven with the case not only being dismissed, charges dropped, but also Randy's statement on December 23rd. I think that statement spoke for itself. It's factual, but I respect the question, and I understand the question.
If I may follow up, did you cause her any injuries that night? Because there were injuries documented in the police affidavit.
Hey, again, certainly not trying to avoid the question, but I'll be really clear here that Randy and I respectfully, have agreed not to comment on the details. What I'll ask you, again, is there's a time frame of what was reported and then what was proven factual and not factual. Other statements were made, and then ultimately, the charges were dismissed.
Keith, can I ask you one? You mentioned you spoke to some people surrounding the events of that night. Did you speak with Randy? Did you speak with the prosecutor? Did you speak with Austin Police?
I did speak with a lot of people. A lot of people were very open and transparent with what they told me. But out of respect to them, I'm not going to talk about who I spoke with, but it was intensive. It was very thorough, and we spoke with a lot of people to make our decision.
We'll go front left here.
Michael Katz at the Daily Journal. Chris, this one's for you. Keith, you brought it up out there that this program has had pockets of success, not necessarily sustained. Chris, I guess from your perspective, what is the key to sustained success at Ole Miss?
It's the toughest part, consistency is what you strive for, and it's what separates champions from the next guy. And to get there, it's, first of all, you just got to have the right people in the organization, certainly the best players, but just the people and people that understand that consistency is the goal. And being a champion is the goal, not just success here and there. And it's a process to get there. I think one of the most things that we've been proud of over the years is we've developed that. I don't think our program and our winning has been defined by one team or one player or one run. It's really hard to get into that upper level of college basketball. But I believe that we have everything here at Ole Miss to get that done. Recruiting's the bloodline of the whole thing. We got to get really good players, but to get those players, you have to have all the other things that I think are in place here. We just have to build and continue to grow. I think a lot of the things that we've all seen, and I've seen it from the outside of what's happened with Ole Miss, with Coach Kiffin. I mean, it's real, right? Like, we're going from being really good, now we're starting to get into the level of consistency and building a program. And I know that's what Coach does, and certainly with baseball and women's basketball and all the other sports that I didn't have time to mention tonight, we'd like to get into that world of consistency. But that is definitely the biggest challenge. We didn't come here to win one championship or one game. We came here to build a program, and a lot of work will go into that.
We'll go right next to front left.
Chris, I was talking to people in Little Rock and Lubbock and Austin about kind of how you built success, and they all talked about one of the big things was staff building, your ability to put together really good staff. So I was curious what you look for, and then obviously how far along are you in building your staff here?
Yeah, staff is really important. It's the guys that are going to be working with our players, and just as important in a lot of ways. So first recognize, Kermit's staff was really good, and there's some talent here that I'm looking forward to spending some real time with. So it always kind of starts there because I have such respect for Coach and some of the coaches here, guys that we really look forward to speaking with. In terms of our staff, probably be a combination of guys that I've been blessed and fortunate enough to work with in the past at other institutions, and then also some new talent. I believe in having guys in the program that are future head coaches or maybe past head coaches that'll be head coaches again. There's different ways to win in college basketball, so it makes it a great sport and so interesting to kind of study and live. But I've never been one to believe like, this guy's a recruiter, this guy's an on-the-floor coach, this guy's great in the office. We're looking for the full package, to get the program to the point where you can win 6 games in 3 weekends and you can compete at that level and win conference championships. You've got to be elite in all levels. And I think a part of being elite is having a coaching staff where you really have head coaches on the staff. And so I think everybody will be really pleased with the first staff we put here. I think it'll be kind of eye-opening to some people, but I believe we'll have one of the best coaching staffs in the country put together here in the next weeks or so.
All right, we'll go on the floor in the back left there.
Brian Rippey, Rivals.com. Coach, you mentioned going a mile a minute in coaching and not having a ton of time to reflect. I'm just curious, over these last 90 days, do you feel like you've learned anything about yourself, if you're any different at all after those last 90 days?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that question because absolutely. During this time, I had a chance to spend a lot of time with my family. I get emotional talking about that, but yeah, so just a lot of time with my family, quality time that maybe I've never had before. And I know coaching again, I'll do things a little different in that regard. Certainly, too, just improving myself, spending some time listening to mentors and just self-analyzing. And I think, there's a balance that I've always strived for, and I'm certainly not perfect, but I feel like I've grown a lot in the last 3 months in terms of the balance that I need between, leader, coach, father, son. Spent some time with my parents that I haven't done as much as I should have during basketball. So, yeah, I'm excited. I can't tell you how excited I am. I feel like I'm back at Fort Scott in 1999 where I was just jumping up and I could work 23 hours a day. I think I can work about 22 and a half hours a day now, Keith, but I'm ready. But I think the reflection and the time off, as hard as it was, it's made me better.
We'll go in the back middle left there.
This is for Coach Joe Cook, 16 WAPT down in Jackson. I'm curious. You were talking about how you researched Ole Miss as well. Do you see this as a rebuild? I know you had some experience at Texas Tech, kind of building that program up. Would you consider it a rebuild, or do you think Ole Miss is maybe in a better spot and you can maybe fast track some things?
Yeah, I don't think. I think the rebuild was a word that we all kind of used in college athletics, but I think in college basketball now, it doesn't matter who you are or where you are. Season ends, some sooner than they'd like. For one team, it'll end on Monday night with a victory. Then it's a rebuild. I think in today's day with the portal, with name, image, and likeness, with the ability of players leave, college basketball has changed. So I don't know if rebuild's the word, but I think roster management, creating a roster, it's a year-to-year thing now. So are we in a tough spot? No. I think we're in a great spot. We got great people, great university, great city, great facilities. We have some real talent on the roster right now that we're going to work hard towards developing a relationship with. It's not hard to recruit to Ole Miss because you have all this stuff. We just have to find the right guy that's about the things that we're about, and that's about trying to win championships, graduate every player and win championships. So I don't see it as a rebuild, but I do recognize that college basketball has changed, and I think we're all in this world now. Like the days where you come to the first game of the season and 10 players you already know because they played last year, those days are over. It's just changed so much. And whether that's good or bad, that's each of us have an opinion, but that's the reality. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about you know, I try to win within the reality of what we're doing. But college basketball has changed. Everybody has a roster rebuild year to year.
I'll take a couple more. We'll go front left here.
Coach, you alluded to it some already. The past day and a half, you spoke to some of the current players. I know some of them have already publicly said they'd like to test the transfer portal. How have those conversations been, and I guess kind of what were those conversations?
Yeah, current players have been great. Every conversation, we're on spring break right now, so some of those conversations have been in person, some of those conversations have been on the phone, and some of those conversations haven't been long at length because I wanted to respect the time that the guys have off at spring break. We got some guys on some pretty cool trips right now with their friends and family. But the conversations have been good. Everything's been transparent, and we support those guys going through their process. You know, I never thought it was the coach's job to come in and get a kid to come back in 5 minutes. I mean, it's a decision both ways. And so really what you're talking about is a relationship and figuring out if it works for both people, both sides. Sometimes it happens quicker than not. Sometimes it is a one conversation. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. But I respect all the players here and want them to go through their own process. Certainly the transfer portal is a big part of college basketball right now. And I know some of these players had kind of an idea after Coach left, but now with us being here, all of them have been great to this point. Every kid has agreed to talk to us and communicate, and that's all you can ask for. But I love the returning players. I heard great things about all of them, and I look forward to getting to know them.
All right, we'll do one more question in the front right here.
Coach, you did the call to action out there right as you left off stage, and you talked about in your official statement to be a big active part of the Oxford community. How big is it to galvanize fan base? Not just within the alumni, nationally, but like locally, as far as you're kind of building that brand that you can sell to recruits and so forth.
Yeah, it's really important. I think it's a non-negotiable to compete for championships. You have to have a home court advantage. You have to have a fan base, and we have that at Ole Miss. I think we got to unite everybody. I think we got to get some consistency, but we have to do our part. We have to get a team that's worth that total buy-in, that 100% participation. But we have a great foundation here, one of the best fan bases in the history of college athletics. We all understand what the football tailgate looks like. Long before I knew how to spell Ole Miss, I knew about the Grove and everything going into it and the success in baseball and women's basketball and all the other sports. So there's a lot of good things going on. But our relationship with our fans and our ability to unite the fan base, not only here in Oxford but in the state and really nationally, is really important. And we'll put real work into it. I think I mentioned tonight that recruiting's the foundation, and then 1B is we start developing relationships. And I ask for people's patience at first. Used to, you could get a job and you could go meet a couple people the first week or first month, but recruiting is so focused right now, and I can't wait to get out and meet people. But our ability to have a home court advantage in there every single night is critical. It's one of our biggest goals. We've had a lot of success at other places doing it, and I can't wait to the challenge to do it here.
All right, well, these two busy gentlemen, so thank you, Mr. Carter. Thank you, Coach Beard.